Now, if you've already got yourself a triathlon or time trial bike, you have likely already discovered that descending on one is, well, rather different to your road bike. Yeah, there's very little that's similar about the geometries between the two, and therefore makes the handling very different too.
Yeah, obviously your triathlon bike is designed for you to be riding it fast whilst on the aero bars, and most of them you'll find are going to have a lower stack height at the front, the seat tubes angle is going to be much steeper, and the saddle's quite often further forwards as well, and this all results in your weight being much more over the front end, and as a result that can actually be a little bit uncomfortable when you're descending. But it doesn't need to be a battle with your bike. Today we're going to help you descend on your TT bike.
Okay, first things first, we are obviously talking today about descents and gradients of significant enough gradient that you're not going to be on the aero bars, you are going to be on the base bar. Now, if this is something you know you struggle with and lack in confidence, then simply heading out on your usual ride and hoping to improve over time each and every time you maybe find a descent is probably not the best course of action. I would fully recommend you find yourself a hill, ideally with a smooth surface, not too technical and not too busy, and head out and do some hill reps on it. Now, you can make this into a bit of a workout, you can push on and make it quite hard on the way up, and then on the way down at the descent, you can really focus and try and improve on that. Now, obviously, start out at a comfortable and relaxed pace, don't push it, but as you build in confidence and control, you can start to build the speed with time.
Practicing your descents, you want to try and focus on relaxing. Now, this is one of the hardest things to do, as it's quite common and natural to want to grip really tightly, tense your shoulders, your arms, and sometimes even stand out of the saddle. But that's just going to make your bike feel more twitchy and rigid rather than letting it flow and relax underneath you. But it becomes a bit of a vicious circle, because the more twitchy your bike feels, the more you're going to grip tightly, and so on. So a good cue here is, if possible, try and relax your fingers. So imagine you're almost playing the piano, and that will then hopefully have a knock-on effect and cause the rest of your upper body to relax too.
And look where you're going. Of course, this one sounds obvious, but it's amazing how many people will stare directly down at the ground in front of them rather than where they're going. Now, if you find yourself doing just that and looking at the ground in front of you, you won't see what's coming until the final moment, and that can make riding feel really erratic, uncomfortable, and unpleasant. So instead, try to look around 3 to 5 seconds ahead of you down the road. And the same applies for corners too. Try to look through the corner, where you're going, and you'll find that the bike will follow, and ultimately the riding will feel far more smooth.
Well, like we alluded to in the intro, the geometry of the bike does have a significant impact on how it feels to ride downhill. Now, in a lot of scenarios, the base bars are going to be quite a bit lower than the saddle. That's going to automatically put your weight towards the front. Add to that the fact that the seat tube is going to be steeper, the saddle's usually further forwards. It's also going to bring all of your body weight just forwards again. All right, so this is going to then require a little bit of tweaking in your body position. You quite simply just slide your bottom further back on the saddle. That's going to take that weight further back, and hopefully it'll make you feel better on the bike, and you'll start to get more confidence. And once that confidence builds, you can keep your bottom there, but you can start to get into a more tucked aero position.
Now, talking of body position, it's important to understand how weight distribution on the bike can help us to improve our handling, our cornering, and our descending further. So as you hit a corner, you should be predominantly putting your weight through the inside handlebar and the outside leg and the bottom 6 o'clock position. This should relieve a bit of pressure from the saddle, with your bum on the saddle, and that allows the bike to move underneath you more freely. So rather than tilting the bike over and having your bum stuck to the saddle and moving with the bike, you can start to move the bike underneath you, keeping the body a little bit more upright. By getting the hang of this, it will just give you a bit more control and confidence going around the corner. And over time, as you really build your confidence, you can start tilting the bike more and ultimately being more aggressive and having fun with it.
Now, it's unlikely that you're going to spend that much time descending on your aero bars, unless obviously it's a really gradual descent with a nice clear view and of course if you're confident. However, that doesn't mean that you need to be limited on your speed because you're riding on the base bars. So just like if you're on the aero bars, you can still tuck in, so you can get your head nice and low, you can get your elbows bent and elbows in, and you'll find you'll be able to save yourself some valuable time in this position. And then just remember those points we were saying earlier, push your bottom back and it'll help you get more confident, and then yeah, just saving more time.
And another area to consider is your line choice. In short, you want to make your line as smooth as possible. And to do this, you want to use the full extent of the road, obviously safely, whilst keeping an eye on the traffic and certainly not crossing the centre line or lanes. For instance, as you approach a corner, shift out towards the middle of the road. This will allow you to straighten out the corner as best as possible. In other words, you're making the angle of the corner less sharp, meaning you could potentially carry more speed into it and through it. Equally, as you exit the corner, use the road again by flowing out to the middle before moving back in.
Leading on from that, we need to think about your gears. Now, if you are descending, you're likely to be in one of your highest gears so that when you do pedal, you've actually got some resistance and you can push the power down. However, it doesn't mean you should switch off changing gear altogether. Like Mark mentioned in the corners, you need to look ahead, and the same days you might be backing off on the pace ever so slightly going into a corner, which means you'll want to accelerate out of it, and you might need to drop down a couple of gears to make sure you don't lose that speed. It's just something that's worth practicing, and soon it will become second nature.
Well, we have covered a heck of a lot here today, so don't suggest you suddenly start going out and trying to practice all of these things today on your next descent. Maybe start at the top of this list, practice the first couple, and then move on with time.
Yeah, well, best of luck. And there's another positive here, because the more practicing you've got to do downhill means you've obviously got to ride to the top, and well, that's extra fitness gain. So hopefully you have enjoyed this. Give us a like if so. Remember, you can find us on social media, and if you haven't yet done so, why not subscribe here to YouTube.